Hello everyone, in this video we're going to have a look at some corporation tax planning, incorporating the use of pensions as a vehicle to hold commercial property. So let's just have a little look at a scenario. We've got a trading company, two directors, husband and wife, and let's say they're doing pretty good. They're making $250,000 profits a year, 250 grand. Now, they might not need all of that money to take out. They may not even need half of that. Let's say they might want to take out 100 grand between the two of them using combination of salary and dividend. But anyway, they're doing profits $250,000, so they've got a pretty hefty corporation tax bill. And assume over the years they built up some surplus cash, retained earnings in the business of more than just the current year's profits. So what are we going to do about this $250,000 of profit and the tax thereon? Well, one of the things they can do, of course, as I've said many times, is to move money into a pension. Now, let's assume that this particular couple, their business trades from premises that they don't own, they rent, but then all of a sudden the landlord says to them, you know what, I want to get a shot at this building, would you like to buy it? And they say, yes, we would. And one of the ways that they can do it is via a pension. Now, assuming that they've paid into pensions previously that are still live schemes, but they haven't put away anything for quite some time, then in theory, they could not only do this year's annual allowance, but they can go back and do several years. So let's just assume that they're going to do a pension contribution of 250 grand. So let's assume that they can wipe out the entire year's profits by doing a pension contribution of 250,000 into a pension arrangement, right? 250 grand. So let's assume they haven't put in any contributions for a while. Their theoretical maximum could actually be way in excess of 250,000, but they don't need to do any more than that because A, they've got profits of 250, and B, they don't want to rinse the company of working capital. So they decide, you know what, 250 grand of cash is the optimal amount we're going to put into a pension. And what they do, they put it into a SIPP, and it's basically a SIPP, husband and wife. Technically, they've got a separate pot each, but it's kind of combined to acquire this commercial building from which they trade. So technically they're going to own half a building each, but to all intents and purposes, as a married couple, they've got this commercial property in their pension. Now let's just assume that the property costs 350 grand. So they want to buy this building that they trade out of from their landlord who's selling it, and they could only afford to move 250 grand into the pension. So that's wiped out their corporation tax for that particular year. That's great, but it's still not enough to buy the building. 250 grand of cash lands in this pension pot, this new pension pot, and because let's just assume they can't consolidate or transfer in existing pension pots, just go with this example. So this 250 grand, not enough to buy the building at 350, but of course pension funds can leverage. So this SIPP type of pension arrangement can borrow up to 50% of its value. So 50% of 250 is 125. So in theory, it could borrow 125. Probably will borrow around about that, because not only do they need to buy the building, but there's stamp duty as well. So and there's some legal expenses. So yes, they can take out a mortgage. The SIPP can take out a mortgage. So 250 grand in cash, 100 grand there or thereabouts of loan, and trading company is now in the pension. So remember, we've wiped out this year's corporation tax bill by doing a great big pension contribution. So what about year 2, year 3, and the subsequent years? So next year, again, let's assume they're doing another $250,000. Now, going forward, of course, they can have 2 lots of expenses coming out of the business to reduce corporation tax, because they could do further contributions, annual allowance, 60 grand each, 120,000. But let's say as well that the commercial rent on this building is 30 grand a year. So that's 150 grand they can get out on the 250 profit, leaves 100 grand subject to corporation tax, and then they're going to draw the rest out via salary and dividends. But basically they're getting double bites at the corporation tax relief cherry by having not only contributions going in to their pension tax-free, but rent as well will go into the pension pot tax-free. So this pension pot is going to be accumulating cash every year from the company, tax deductible in the company, tax-free in the pension, and before you know it, this money that's coming in year 2, you're soon going to repay this 100 grand loan, this loan that they've took out in the pension itself to buy the building. That's going to be paid off, I would suggest, in pretty quick order by the continued year on year. I mean, look, if you do this every year, that's 150 grand a year. You're soon going to be able to pay off the, you can do it in one go pretty much in year 2. So just something to think of. Pensions, tax relief, corporation tax, commercial property, utilizing existing cash that's in the building but not using it all, making use of debt arrangements that will lend money into a pension, but then when you do your calculations in terms of affordability and paying off the loan, well, there's going to be more money coming in the future, because of course rent will come into the pension tax-free, using the rent to pay down the loan, and indeed further contributions as well. 60 grand a year annual allowance, husband and wife, that's 120 grand. So there's all sorts of things you can do here with pensions, commercial property, tax relief. So just food for thought there. If you are, like many thousands of people, husband and wife, have a limited company, and you're not necessarily owning the premises from which you trade, but there is an option maybe to do so in the future, have a think about doing it via this vehicle. It could save you a lot of money. So if you like this video, please do subscribe, and as always, I'll see you soon.